Have you ever had a moment so raw, so quiet, that the noise of your life stopped and you asked yourself, who am I really? Not the name, not the job, not the role others always expect you to play, but the you beneath it all. The you that's been buried under years of conditioning, culture, expectation and fear. What if I told you that your identity isn't real in the way you think it is? That it's not something you find, but something you create? And more than that, what if I told you that the very act of clinging to your old identity is the reason you feel stuck, anxious, or lost? Welcome to existentialism, and more importantly, welcome to Nietzsche's truth. Because this isn't just philosophy. This is a demolition project. And what we're about to do will destroy your old identity. But in that destruction, you'll find something more real than you've ever known. This is not a video for the faint of heart. This is for the seekers, the wanderers, the ones who've looked at their life and whispered, there has to be more than this. Let's begin. Existentialism is not a philosophy you read. It's a philosophy you live or die by. And Nietzsche? He wasn't just a thinker. He was a flame, a hammer, a prophet of becoming. His ideas weren't meant to entertain you. They were meant to wake you up. And what is the first truth Nietzsche throws in our face? God is dead. No, not as a theological statement, but as a cultural one. Nietzsche didn't celebrate the death of God. He diagnosed it.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
He saw that in the modern world, traditional values, religious, moral, institutional, had collapsed. And with them, the scaffolding that gave people meaning, purpose, and identity. So now what? Now we're free. But not the kind of freedom you've been sold. Not the do-whatever-you-want consumer freedom. No, existentialism, and Nietzsche in particular, says you are free in the most terrifying sense. You are responsible for creating yourself. Which brings us to the first existentialist truth that will destroy your old identity. Existence precedes essence. You are not born with a fixed essence. You are not defined by your past, your genes, your culture. You exist first, and then, through your choices, your actions, your courage, you define what you are. But here's the catch. Most people don't want that kind of freedom. Because it comes with weight. It comes with responsibility. But you can't blame your parents. You can't blame society. You can't blame fate. You are the sculptor and the stone. So ask yourself, what parts of your identity are you clinging to because they're familiar even if they're false? What labels have you accepted that were never yours to begin with? If we're honest, most of us live in what Jean-Paul Sartre called bad faith. We lie to ourselves. We pretend we are not free. We say, I can't change. It's just who I am. But that's not truth. That's fear in disguise. And Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate tragedy. Because when we refuse to become who we are, we become a herd. We live by borrowed values. We conform. We obey. We numb ourselves with distractions, careers, relationships, even noble causes, anything to avoid facing the terrifying abyss of our own freedom. But Nietzsche offers us a way out, a path, not upward but inward. He calls it the path of the Übermensch, the overman, the one who transcends herd morality and creates new values from within. This isn't a superhero. This is you if you have the courage to die to your old self. Let me ask you, what would it take for you to become the person you were meant to be before the world told you who to be? What lies would you have to burn? What comforts would you have to sacrifice? This is what Nietzsche meant when he said, "Become who you are." It sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Because it means letting go of every borrowed identity, every mask, every excuse. It means facing the void and creating meaning where there is none. And that brings us to another characteristic of existentialism that will shake your foundation: life is absurd. Albert Camus, another existentialist, though he rejected the label, described the human condition as absurd. Why? Because we desperately seek meaning in a universe that is silent. We want justice, purpose, clarity. But the world offers chaos, suffering, and death. So what do we do? Camus gives us the image of Sisyphus condemned to push a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down. Sound familiar? It's the commute, the job, the endless loop of goals that never satisfy. But here's the twist. Camus says we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because the moment he accepts the absurdity and chooses to keep pushing, he becomes free. And that's the existential move, to affirm life, not because it has meaning, but because you give it meaning. That's what Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is about. He asks, if you had to live your exact same life over and over for eternity, would you say yes or would you scream no? Would you embrace your life as it is, or would you be haunted by regret? This question is not theoretical. It's a test. It's asking you, are you living a life worth reliving? If not, why? Because here's the final and perhaps most brutal truth of existentialism: no one is coming to save you. There is no divine plan, no cosmic justice, no guarantee of reward. It's just you, your choices, your actions, your will. So if you're waiting for the right moment to change, stop. This is it. Right now, there is no script, no destiny, only the raw clay of existence and your trembling hands. And yes, it's terrifying, but it's also beautiful. Because once you stop waiting to be chosen, you can choose yourself. Once you stop chasing meaning, you can create it. Once you stop clinging to identity, you can become something new. So let me ask you, face to face, what would your life look like if you stopped pretending? Who would you be if you let go of everything that is not truly you? Are you willing to let your old identity die so that something real can be born? Because if you are, then welcome. You're not just watching a video. You're stepping into the fire, into the forge, into the wilderness of your own becoming. And Nietzsche is right there with you, whispering, I tell you, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. So burn the mask, break the mold, destroy the old identity, and rise not as who you were told to be, but as who you choose to become. So here we are standing among the ashes of the self. The identity you thought was you, gone. The roles, the titles, the expectations, the beliefs you inherited from your family, your culture, your past, they've all been burned down by the fire of existential truth. But now comes the most terrifying and liberating moment of all. You must rebuild. You see, Nietzsche didn't stop at destruction. He was not a nihilist in the cheap sense. He didn't say life was meaningless and leave you there to rot in despair. He gave you the hammer, but he also gave you the blueprint for becoming, for rebirth, for rising as your truest self. And that's what this part is about, the fire of becoming. Let's begin with one of Nietzsche's most misunderstood but most powerful ideas, the will to power. Most people think this means domination, control, oppression. But Nietzsche didn't mean power over others. He meant power over yourself, over your instincts, your cowardice, your comfort, your falsehoods. The will to power is the drive to transcend and to become, to rise above what you were yesterday. It is the force that says, I will not be defined by the past. I will not be enslaved by fear. I will not settle for mediocrity disguised as safety. It is your inner fire. But here's the catch. Becoming who you are means you will suffer. Nietzsche was brutally honest about this. Growth is not clean. It is not painless. It is a war between the parts of you that want to evolve and the parts of you that want to remain comfortable, known and small. So let me ask you, what part of you is afraid to change because it knows it must die in the process? This is the existential crucible. The moment you realize that your suffering is not meaningless but necessary. In fact, Nietzsche said, to live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. But he didn't mean you should just endure. He meant you should transform. Suffering, when embraced consciously, becomes fuel. It becomes insight. It becomes the raw material from which new selves are forged. And this is where Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, the love of fate, comes in. Amor fati means more than acceptance. It means loving your life exactly as it is, not wishing it were different, not hoping for rescue, but saying yes to everything that has brought you here, every heartbreak, every failure, every loss, because all of it was the fire preparing you for this moment. So let me ask you something that could change your entire life. What if your pain wasn't the thing holding you back, but the thing propelling you forward? What if your suffering is not your enemy, but your invitation to become something greater? This is where Nietzsche's existentialism gets dangerous in the best possible way, because it doesn't just ask you to accept life. It dares you to affirm it, to embrace the absurdity, and to dance with chaos, to build meaning not from comfort but from freedom. And freedom, real freedom, is not doing whatever you want. It's becoming strong enough to choose your highest self even when it hurts. That's what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch, not a person with superpowers, but a person with super responsibility. Someone who creates their own values, who lives as an artist of existence, who turns their life into a work of art, not by avoiding pain, but by transforming it. And that's the key. You are not here to be happy. You are here to be whole. Happy is fleeting. It's emotional weather. But wholeness, that's eternal. That's rooted. That's you, integrated and real. And wholeness only comes when you stop running from your darkness and instead sit with it. Breathe with it. Learn from it. So here's your challenge. What values are you willing to create knowing the world may never validate them? What truth are you ready to live regardless of the cost? What dream inside you is so real, so essential, that you'd be willing to suffer for it? Because Nietzsche's truth is not for spectators. It's for warriors of the soul. And that brings us to the final, most profound transformation, eternal recurrence. We touched on it earlier, but let's go deeper. Nietzsche asked, what if a demon whispered in your ear that you would live this life, exactly as it is, over and over again for eternity? Would you fall to your knees in despair, or would you rejoice? This is not a theory. It's a mirror. It asks, are you living a life you would willingly relive? Not a perfect life, not a painless life, but a life so true, so fully yours, that you would say yes to it again and again, even with the mistakes, the heartbreaks, the absurdity. This is the ultimate test of authenticity. Because if you're not living a life you would repeat, then what exactly are you doing? This is where Nietzsche hands the mirror back to you. And you must look. No one can answer for you. No one can save you. No one can become you. So now you must choose. Will you return to the comfort of your old identity, the illusion of safety, the borrowed beliefs? Or will you walk forward into the fire of becoming? Will you let the past die so the future can be born? Will you suffer meaningfully so that you can live fully? This is not a philosophy of despair. It is a philosophy of radical hope. Hope not in the world, but in you, because you are not finished. You are not doomed. You are not broken. You are incomplete, and that is beautiful. Because it means you still get to write the story. You still get to choose. You still get to become. So take a breath. Look around at your life and ask, if I had to live this day forever, would I be proud? If not, what must I change starting now? Nietzsche once said, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So find your why, not the one given to you, the one you choose, and then build your life around it with courage, honesty, and fire. Because this is your one shot to become who you are. This is your one chance to say yes to existence, not because it's easy, but because it is yours. So go, create, become, not who the world wants you to be, but who you were born to become after you've destroyed everything false. And when the fire burns bright and the old identity is ash, you will not be empty. You will be free. And that is the greatest truth Nietzsche ever gave us. If this video woke something inside you, don't let it fade. Watch it, reflect, share it with someone who's ready to leave their old self behind. And subscribe if you want to keep walking this path of truth, courage, and becoming. This is not the end, it's the beginning of you.